Hello friends, good morning. Welcome to this new class again. And as we had mentioned in the last class about people who are working in the organized sector as well as in the unorganized sector, there's a lot of differences there. A lot of privileges are given to people who are working in the organized sector, and people who are working in the unorganized sector, there is hardly any privilege. They are struggling. They are not sure of their future. They are not sure of their security. They are not sure of their work together, work tomorrow. So they have a lot of problems are there. So let us see how can we protect these people who are working in the unorganized sector. Majority of the workers, majority of the laborers are working in this unorganized sector. How can we protect their life? Let's see that today. The organized sector offers jobs that are the most sought after, so that we know all the people who are working in the government offices and the big offices and those who have got permanent job, they are all working under organized sector, and that is a job which has got high demand. So people who are smart, people who are well qualified, they will get that job. But the employment opportunities in the organized sector have been expanding very slowly. And it is also common to find many organized sector enterprises in the unorganized sector. And they adopt such strategies to evade taxes and refuse to follow laws that protect laborers. As a result, a large number of workers are forced to enter the unorganized sector jobs which pay a very low salary. They are often exploited and not paid a fair wage. Their earnings are low and not regular. These jobs are not secure and have no other benefits. So these are the problems that are faced by the people who are working in the unorganized sector. You can underline. What are their problems? They are forced to enter into unorganized sector jobs. So people who are no other job, they are forced to enter into this unorganized sector of jobs, and they pay very low salary. They are often exploited and not paid a fair wage. They are exploited. They are made to work longer times. They are provided very less facilities. The basic minimum wage is not paid. All these problems they face. Then their earnings are very low. Their salary is very low, therefore the profit or the money that they get also will be very low. Their earnings are low and not regular, and they are not regularly paid. Every month, sometimes it's not paid. Sometimes paid after 2 months, some paid after 3 months. We hear sometimes in the news that certain officers or certain employees are not paid for 6 months, or not paid for 1 year, and so on. So they go on pending their salary. So these workers who are working in the unorganized sector, they are not sure when are they going to get their salary, how their family will manage. They have to borrow money from money lenders, later they have to return back the interest. So a lot of problems are there. So let us see about all these details in this class. So since the year 1990s, it is common to see a large number of workers losing their jobs in the organized sector. So if you look from 1990, what is happening in India is a lot of people who were working in the organized sector, they are losing their job. The companies are sending them away. Maybe because their salary is very high, so company wants to make more profit. So company is sending them away. So more and more people are losing their jobs. These workers are forced to take up jobs in the unorganized sector with low earnings. So since these people, they have lost their job, there is no other vacancy for them, what they will do? They are ready to work in the unorganized sector. They go to other companies where there is no job security, where there is low wages and so on. So they are forced to do that because they have no other opportunity to look after their family. They have no other way, and hence, besides the need for more work, there is also a need for protection and support of the workers in the unorganized sector. You can underline what is the need of the people working in the unorganized sector. That is, there is a need for more work and there is also a need for protection and support of the workers. So we need to give protection to the workers and we need to give support to the workers. Then only the people who are working in the unorganized sector, they will be feeling safe and they will be able to carry on their work, their life, looking after their family and so on. So who are these vulnerable people who need protection? We said people who are working in the unorganized sector, they need protection. So who are these people who need protection? Let us see. In the rural areas, the unorganized sector mostly comprises of landless agricultural laborers, small and marginal farmers, sharecroppers and artisans such as weavers, blacksmiths, carpenters and goldsmiths. So people who are living in the rural area or in the village area, there we will find people who are working in the agricultural farms, the daily laborers, people who are going and working in others' farms. Then there are small and marginal farmers, people or farmers with a small piece of land. They need protection, otherwise they will be exploited by others. Then sharecroppers, people who are sharing the crops. People, 2-3 people will work together and cultivate in the same field. Then artisans, people who are doing small artistic works like those who are weaving clothes or those who are working as a blacksmith, making the tools, knife, all those things. Then carpenters, people who are working on the wood, and people who are goldsmiths, people who are working on gold. So all these people we will find in the villages, not in a large scale, not a very organized way, they are doing in their own way. So they are not needed or they are not given protection, they are not supported by the government. So those people are exploited. These laborers are called to work in the field and they are paid very little money. Or this blacksmith or goldsmith, they are given some work but they are not paid enough money. So their family is struggling. Therefore these people, those who are living in the village, they need protection. And how to give protection? Let's see. Nearly 80% of rural households in India are in small and marginal farmer category. So out of this 100% people, you will find 80% of the people, they are in this unprotected category. So such a huge amount of people, only 20% are protected, 80% is not protected. So they need some protection. And these farmers need to be supported through adequate facility for timely delivery of seeds, agriculture inputs, credit, storage facilities and marketing outlets. So how can we help these 80% of the people who are working in the rural area? On their own they cannot, because they are small farmers. They don't have that capacity to get a lot of money or lot of help or regular help and so on. So they need the help of the government. For what? They should be given seeds in time, good seeds, high yielding variety of seeds should be provided by the government. Then agricultural inputs like fertilizers, the tractors and other machines that are needed, they should be provided by the government. Then credit facility should be there, loan facility. So government should arrange bank should be there in the rural areas to provide loan for the farmers. Otherwise they have to go and take money from the money lenders and all their money will be lost. So government has to help them to provide credit or loan. Then there should be storage facility. After the harvest, the farmers should have a place to store up their grain and other products. Otherwise it gets spoiled. So government should make nice gardens with a lot of proper facility where rats will not enter, other creatures will not enter, and it will be safe and secure till it is time for them to take it to market and sell it. So government should arrange all these things and marketing outlets, all that. So it is how the government can help these people who are 80%, such a large quantity of the people are just struggling on their own. If government comes forward to help them to provide all these facilities, then they also will be able to improve. They also will be able to join that production of national growth of national production, that is the GDP. So that is the protection they need, people who are in rural areas. Now let us see what are the helps needed for the people who are in urban areas, in the town areas. So in the town also there are a lot of people who are unorganized. In the urban areas, unorganized sector comprises mainly of workers in small scale industry, casual workers in construction, trade and transport, etc. and those who work as street vendors, head load workers, garment makers, rack pickers, etc. So if you go to the big towns, you will find all these type of people there. Who are they? People working in the small scale industry, making small items, that is called small scale industry. Then casual workers in construction, workers who are joining for constructing buildings. Then trade and transport, people who are working in the trade business, those who are doing small businesses, or people who are transporting things from one place to another, those who are driving and so on. Then those who work in the street vendors, there are, you will find people sitting on the roadside and selling vegetables and other small items. They are called street vendors. Then head load workers, then we will find people who are carrying things on their heads, going from house to house or going from one street to another street, carrying things on their heads. They are also under the group of unorganized workers. Then garment makers, people who are making garments, people who are stitching clothes and so on. Then rack pickers, people who are going around collecting all the things from the roadside, from the waste heap and so on. Those who are collecting plastic bottles, people who are collecting other things that are useful for recycling, all those things. They are called rack pickers, collecting the all things from the waste that is thrown by others. So all these people need protection. They are working on their own. Nobody is there to help them. If something happens, then they will suffer the loss. Nobody will be there to share their burden. Nobody will be there to share their economic loss. Nobody will be there to give them loan and so on. So how can these people be helped? Let's see. Small scale industry also needs government support for procuring raw material and marketing output. These casual workers in both rural and urban areas needs to be protected. So people who are working in this town, especially people who are working in the small scale industry, they are producing small items. So very often they don't get much profit, and so they don't have enough money to buy raw material for producing things. So those who are making soap, let's say, those who are producing soap, washing soap, so they need a lot of raw materials to produce this soap. So government can give them loan, or government can make agents, arrange agents in order to supply these raw materials for them, so that all the items that are needed, all the ingredients that are needed for making soap will be easily available. So these small scale industry manufacturers, they don't have to search all around where are these things available and so government can come forward and help them to get all these things. Then we also find that majority of the workers from scheduled castes, tribes and backward communities find themselves in the unorganized sector. So we also find people belonging to different communities like scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and backward communities. They are also working under this unorganized sector. And very often what happens is they are suffering from all the other problems like support from the government, irregular pay, irregular work, uncertainty of the future. All these things these people also face. But apart from that, these people who belong to these scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and backward communities, what happens to them? They also face social discrimination. They don't get equality with others. They are discriminated, they are rejected by others, especially people who belong to the higher caste and so on. Protection and support to the unorganized sector workers is thus necessary for both economic and social development. So only if all these people are supported by the government and helped by the government, then they also will be able to come to the mainstream of the country. They also will be able to get job in the organized sector and able to give their best, their skill, their quality, their ability, everything they will be able to give, and they will be able to be part of the production group of the country, and the best things will be produced. So that is the responsibility of the government, to make use of all the people, not to exploit them, but to provide them support, provide them help, so that they can give their best to the nation and help in the growth of the country. Now let us see some activity there. Let us recall. With so many activities taking place around us, one needs to use the process of classification to think in a useful manner. The criterion for classification could be many, depending on what we desire to find out. The process of classification helps to analyze the situation. So we find people in our surroundings, in our areas, doing different works. So we need to classify them, whether they work in primary sector or secondary sector or tertiary sector. Then again we need to find out whether they are working as an organized group or unorganized. So we need to be able to analyze, then we need to know what kind of work are they doing, all that, then only we will be able to help them. First we have to analyze them and find them. Then in dividing the economic activities into three sectors, primary, secondary and tertiary, the criterion used was the nature of activity. So we already said all those things. Those who are working on the field or in the farm, they are primary sector. Those who are working with the manufacturing sector, they are secondary. And those who are doing service, different types of service, they are working with tertiary sector. Then, on the basis of this classification, we were able to analyze the pattern of total production and employment in India. Similarly, we divided the economic activities into organized and unorganized and used the classification to look at employment in the two sectors. What was the most important conclusion that was derived from the classification exercises? What were the problems and solutions that were indicated? Can you summarize the information in the following table? So they have given a table here, and what we have studied so far, we need to just write in short what will be the solution for them, or what are the problems that they face, and so on. Let us try to do that. So first one speaks about the first division, primary, secondary and tertiary sector. And there the criteria used for dividing the three sections or three sectors is the nature of activity, what kind of activity are they doing. And the most important conclusion that we can make is, what can we make? We saw majority of the people are working in which sector? Primary sector. Almost 60% of the Indian people are working in the primary sector. Then the rest of the people, just 40% of the people are working in other two sectors, secondary sector and tertiary sector. But when we look at the effect, what comes? Though the 60% of people are working in the primary sector, the production that they bring is much less than what others are doing. So less people are working in secondary and tertiary sector, but they are producing more. They are helping the country to get more GDP. So that is the end part. So what can we do to help them? We said. So more people are working in the agriculture sector or the primary sector, but their production is less. That is because the work is less. Since other people are unemployed, they are just remaining there at home, they also go and work in the field. That is how the number of people are increasing. So what the government needs to do is take out all the extra people working in the primary sector and make them to work in secondary sector or tertiary sector. Then they will be able to give their contribution. They will be able to join the production in other areas, so that the disguised unemployment or extra people working in the primary sector can be made use in some other sectors. That is the problem that we can, or that is how we can tackle the problem there. So government has to take initiative to provide them employment opportunities in private, the secondary sector and tertiary sector. Now we come to the another type of division. We divided them into organized and unorganized sector. Workers are divided into organized sector and unorganized sector. So what is the criteria that is used for dividing them into organized and unorganized sector? We said it is depending on the regularity of their work, the privileges of work that they are receiving. People who are working in the organized sector, they have got higher pay, they have got different types of allowances, they have their security, they have their privileges, they have their working time fixed, all that. But in the unorganized sector, it is just the opposite. They have to work extra time and their payment may not be regular, and sometimes it may be very less payment. So a lot of problems will be there for the people who are working in the unorganized sector. So it is depending on the facilities that they are receiving. That is how the criteria is used. This is how we decide which are the workers working in the organized sector, which are the workers working in the unorganized sector, and so on. Then what is the conclusion? From there, how we just now said, we need to provide facilities, or we need to give support and help to the people who are unorganized. The government should give them seeds for the farmers, facilities or agriculture inputs, the fertilizers and other things. Government should help them, the credit facility, and should provide them the godown for storing their products and to help them to sell them in the market. All these facilities should be given by the government. Then all those workers, they also can get organized, they also can have regular income and so on. So government has to take some extra initiative, and then there will not be much difference between primary sector, the people who are working in the organized sector and unorganized sector. Then their problems will be solved, and they also will have regular income, and they also will be able to contribute greatly to the growth of GDP and so on. So thank you for listening. Have a nice day.